Mom, Anna said, her voice shaky but clear. I've been looking for you. I've needed to see you, to hear you. Her mother blinked, as if coming out of a daze, before stepping back and motioning for Anna to come inside. I never thought you would come back to me, her mother said, her voice raw with emotion. I'm sorry. I know I hurt you, and I know I failed you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm glad you're here. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. Anna, a little black girl, no older than 7, was kneeling on the dirty ground, her small hands sifting through discarded wrappers and old food, desperately searching for something, anything that could ease the hunger gnawing at her stomach. She wore a ragged coat, too big for her frame, and shoes that were barely holding together. The city lights above flickered, casting long, uncertain shadows, but Anna didn't notice. She had been here before, many times. Hunger was nothing new to her. The wind howled through the empty streets, and the cold bite of the December night seemed to pierce through even the thickest coats. The streets were mostly quiet, save for the occasional shuffle of someone walking quickly to get out of the cold. But on this particular corner, near a small alley by a fast food restaurant, a different sound cut through the air. It was the sound of tiny hands digging through trash. The wind howled through the empty streets, and the cold bite of the December night seemed to pierce through even the thickest coats. The streets were mostly quiet, save for the occasional shuffle of someone walking quickly to get out of the cold. But on this particular corner, near a small alley by a fast food restaurant, a different sound cut through the air. It was the sound of tiny hands digging through trash. It wasn't just the sight of the girl rummaging through the trash, it was the way she seemed so intent on her task, as if she had no other choice but to find something to survive. Logan's heart skipped a beat. He had everything: luxury cars, a sprawling mansion, and a life others envied. Yet here was this little girl, doing something no child should ever have to do. The cold air seemed to bite at his chest, making it harder to breathe. He watched her for a moment, her small hands clutching the bread as though it were the most precious thing in the world. He didn't know why he was moved, but he knew he couldn't just walk away. He stepped forward, his shoes clicking softly against the pavement, his breath visible in the cold. The girl didn't notice him at first, but when she did, she quickly pulled the bread closer to her body, as if trying to hide it from him. Logan knelt down, his voice soft, gentle. "Hey there," he said, his words almost lost in the wind. Anna hesitated but looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't speak. She just stared at him, clutching the bread tighter. Logan's heart ached. He saw something in her eyes, something more than just hunger. There was dignity there, a quiet pride that refused to let her break down, even in the face of such hardship. "You don't have to do this alone," Logan said, his voice breaking through the silence. He didn't know why he felt so compelled to help, but he knew he couldn't leave her here, in the cold, digging through trash for food. Anna still didn't respond. She just stared at him, her little face unreadable. Logan slowly reached into his coat pocket, pulling out his wallet. "Let me buy you something to eat," he offered, his words calm, but there was a hint of urgency in them. He wasn't used to feeling this way, this compelled to help someone in need. Anna's grip on the bread loosened just slightly, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. She had heard people offer things before, but they never meant it. They never understood. They never stayed. Logan continued, his voice steady. "It's cold out here. Let me help you." Finally, Anna spoke, her voice small but firm. "I will pay you back when I grow up," she said, her words cutting through the night air. Logan blinked, taken aback. Her words, simple as they were, hit him harder than anything else. She wasn't asking for charity. She wasn't begging for help. She was holding on to her dignity, even in the face of everything she had to endure. Logan smiled softly, the weight in his chest lifting slightly. "I believe you," he said, his voice low and sincere. "But for now, let's get you something warm to eat." Logan stood there for a moment, watching the girl as she slowly released her grip on the piece of bread, her fingers still trembling. He had offered help, but something about her response, "I will pay you back when I grow up," stuck with him. He wasn't sure why, but he had never met anyone so young, so proud, and so determined to maintain their dignity. It wasn't like any other child he had ever known. Most kids in her situation would have broken down, asking for pity, but she hadn't. She didn't want charity. She wanted respect. She wanted to be seen as someone worthy, not someone to be pitied. Logan felt his heart soften, but the cold still lingered around them, biting at the edges of the moment. He reached out, offering a hand to her, a gesture of kindness. But she hesitated. He could see the hesitation in her eyes, the uncertainty of trusting someone who, in her experience, had probably never understood what it felt like to be desperate. "Come on, let me take you somewhere warm," Logan said gently, his voice a little more insistent this time. "You don't have to be out here alone." Slowly, Anna nodded, though her eyes still held a wariness that Logan could sense but didn't fully understand. He gestured for her to walk with him, and they started down the street together, Logan's hand lingering just a few inches from hers, unsure if he should reach out and guide her. They walked in silence, the sounds of the city around them muffled by the rush of cold wind. The sound of her worn shoes against the pavement was the only thing breaking the quiet between them. As they turned the corner to a small diner that was still open, Logan noticed Anna glancing at the glowing sign. He could feel her anxiety growing again. "It's okay," Logan reassured her, his voice soft but firm. "You don't have to worry. I'll make sure you get something to eat. No one's going to make you leave." She didn't respond right away, but he could see her shoulders relax just a little bit. They entered the diner, and the warmth inside was a welcome relief after the biting cold of the streets. The smell of fresh coffee and hot food filled the air. Logan led Anna to a booth in the back, where they sat down, and he motioned for the waitress. The diner was nearly empty, a few late-night workers nursing cups of coffee in booths across the room. Anna stared at the menu for a moment, still unsure of herself. Logan could tell she didn't quite understand what was happening. To her, this was something unfamiliar help that seemed too good to be true. "Do you know what you want?" Logan asked, trying to make her feel more comfortable. Anna looked up at him, her face still serious. "I just want something that will fill me up," she replied quietly, almost as if she were afraid to say too much. Logan gave a small smile, leaning over to the waitress. "Get her anything you think she'll like," he said, his tone kind. The waitress nodded, clearly not used to such requests but happy to oblige. As she walked away, Logan turned his attention back to Anna. He had no idea what had brought him here, to this moment with this girl, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in him. He had seen plenty of poverty, plenty of hardship in the world, but it had never felt so close before, so personal. And now, looking at Anna, he felt something he hadn't expected, a sense of responsibility. It wasn't just about feeding her. It was about seeing her as a person, as someone who deserved more than just a quick fix or a handout. "You know," Logan started, trying to ease the tension in the air, "I've been thinking about something." Anna looked at him, her eyes still guarded. "What's that?" she asked, her voice soft. Logan hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "You said you'd pay me back when you grow up, but I'm not doing this because I expect something in return. I'm doing it because I believe that you deserve to be treated with respect, just like anyone else." Anna's eyes widened a little, and for the first time, Logan saw a flicker of something other than wariness in her eyes. It was a glimmer of understanding. She hadn't heard that from anyone, at least not in a long time. "I know it might seem strange, but sometimes people forget that everyone has their own dignity," Logan continued. "No matter how small or big, no matter where they come from, you've got more dignity than most people I know." Anna sat quietly, absorbing his words. She didn't speak, but her eyes softened, a small crack in the armor she had built to protect herself from the world. The waitress returned, placing a warm plate of food in front of her. Anna's eyes flickered to the plate, her stomach growling audibly, but she hesitated before reaching for it. Logan smiled gently. "Go ahead," he encouraged. "You don't need to wait." She didn't need any more prompting. Anna picked up her fork and began eating, the first bite seeming to bring her a sense of comfort. Logan watched her, feeling a weight lift off his chest. This wasn't just about food, it was about something much deeper. And in that moment, Logan realized that this simple act of kindness was something he could never forget. Logan watched Anna eat, her small hands gripping the fork with a focus that was almost too serious for someone her age. The food she had been given seemed to bring some comfort, though it couldn't erase the weight of the world she carried on her tiny shoulders. He could see the tension in her face, the hesitation in every bite, as if she was afraid to trust this moment, afraid it might be taken away from her at any second. It made him think about his own life. He had never known hunger like this, never known what it was like to fight for every scrap of food. He had grown up with privilege, with opportunities, with more than he could ever need. Yet here was this little girl, sitting across from him, showing him a side of the world he had ignored for too long. Logan shifted in his seat, leaning forward slightly, his voice quiet but firm. "Anna," he began, his words slow and deliberate, "there's something I need to ask you." She paused, mid-bite, her eyes meeting his. There was still a wariness in her gaze, but it wasn't as sharp as it had been when they first met. She was listening now. Logan cleared his throat before continuing. "I want to know more about you. How did you end up out there? On the streets? What happened to you?" Anna's grip on her fork tightened, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. Logan could see the struggle inside her, the hesitation. She wasn't used to talking about this. It wasn't something children her age should have to deal with. Yet here she was, carrying a weight far heavier than most adults ever would. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Anna put her fork down. She looked at the table for a long time before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," she said softly. "My mom, she wasn't always like this. She used to take care of me, but then she started getting sick, and she couldn't work anymore. Sometimes, she couldn't even get out of bed." Her eyes flickered up to meet Logan's, her gaze a little more open now, though still guarded. "I had to do everything for us. I had to find food. I had to keep us warm. I thought if I could make her better, things would go back to normal." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and thick, with the weight of truth. Logan felt a lump form in his throat. He had heard stories, of course, about families struggling, but hearing it from Anna, seeing the raw emotion in her eyes, made the reality hit home in a way it never had before. He could feel the guilt creep up on him. How many times had he seen people begging on the streets and looked the other way, too busy with his own life to think about their pain? How many times had he ignored the truth that there were children like Anna who were just trying to survive? Logan shifted in his seat again, this time leaning back a little. He took a deep breath. "Anna," he said, his voice softer now, "you're not alone, and you don't have to do this by yourself anymore. I want to help." The words felt strange to him. He was a man who had built an empire on his own, who had prided himself on self-sufficiency and independence. But here, with Anna, it felt like something different, something deeper. He wasn't offering just money or food. He was offering something far more valuable. He was offering to be a part of her story, to change the course of her life. Anna looked at him, and for the first time since they'd met, there was no hesitation in her eyes. There was no fear. She didn't speak right away, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was a silence filled with understanding. She had heard the words, but more than that, she had heard the sincerity in his voice. "You really want to help?" she asked, her voice small but steady. Logan nodded. "Yes, I really do." Anna took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll let you help, but I'm not going to forget what you said. I will pay you back when I grow up." Logan smiled, his heart swelling with a feeling he hadn't expected. It wasn't pity or charity, it was respect. Respect for this little girl who had seen the worst of the world and still held on to the belief that she could make things better. He realized then that she was teaching him something. Maybe it wasn't about fixing everything at once, but about making the decision to help, to see people for who they truly are, and to make a difference where you could. "You don't have to worry about paying me back," Logan said softly. "You've already done more than enough." Anna's eyes sparkled for a moment, and for the first time since they'd met, she smiled. It wasn't a big smile, but it was enough to make Logan's heart race. It was the kind of smile that said, "I'm okay, and maybe, just maybe, she really would be." The diner was quiet now, the warmth inside contrasting sharply with the cold night outside. Logan sat across from Anna, watching as she slowly finished the meal he had ordered for her. The conversation had flowed more easily than either of them expected, and the space between them, once filled with uncertainty, was now filled with something else: trust. As she finished, Logan leaned forward, his eyes steady on hers. He had promised to help her, but the path ahead was uncertain, and he knew there was more he needed to understand. "Anna," he began, his voice calm but firm, "I need to know more. This isn't just about food. I want to help you, But I also need to know who's in your life, who can help you." Anna's eyes flickered for a moment, her gaze dropping to the table as though she were weighing his words. She didn't speak right away. There was a hesitation in her that Logan had come to expect. But this time, it wasn't fear, it was something else, something deeper. "I don't really have anyone," she said finally, her voice small. "My mom, like I told you, she's not the same. She can't take care of me. She's sick." Her words trailed off, but the heaviness behind them was clear. Logan could see the weight she carried, the responsibility of caring for someone when she should have been the one being cared for. It wasn't right. Logan's heart tightened. He had asked the question, but now that he had the answer, it felt like it was more than he could handle. This wasn't just about Anna, this was about her mother and the system that had failed them both. "I can't imagine how hard that must be," Logan said quietly, "but there has to be someone. A friend? A family member?" Anna shook her head slowly, her eyes distant. "No one. Not really." The words stung more than Logan could have expected. He had grown up in a family, surrounded by people who loved him, who had always been there for him. To hear that a child like Anna had no one was heartbreaking. Logan smiled, his heart swelling with a feeling he hadn't expected. It wasn't pity or charity, it was respect. Respect for this little girl who had seen the worst of the world and still held on to the belief that she could make things better. He realized then that she was teaching him something. Maybe it wasn't about fixing everything at once, but about making the decision to help, to see people for who they truly are, and to make a difference where you could. "I want to make sure you have the things you need. And more than that, I want you to have a future where you don't have to worry about surviving. You deserve more than that." There was a long silence. Logan could see the doubt in Anna's eyes, the skepticism, but there was also something else, something fragile hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, someone finally cared. "I can't promise that everything will be perfect," Logan continued, "but I can promise that I will be here for you, and we'll figure this out together." Anna didn't respond immediately. Instead, she sat there, her small hands folded tightly in front of her, as if trying to hold herself together. Logan knew it would take time for her to believe in what he was offering. But he also knew that this was the beginning of something important. Something that could change both of their lives. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," Logan added softly. "I know it's hard to trust, but I won't let you down." Anna's eyes searched his face for a moment, as if trying to read him, to see if he was telling the truth. After what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Okay," she said. "But you can't make promises you can't keep." Logan smiled softly. "I won't. But I can promise you this. I'll do everything I can to keep my word." There was a flicker of something in Anna's eyes, something that might have been hope, might have been relief, but whatever it was, it made Logan's chest tighten. He could see that he had made a small crack in the wall she had built around herself. He wasn't sure how long it would take to break that wall down completely, but he was willing to wait. "Thank you," Anna whispered, her voice full of a gratitude she didn't yet know how to express. Logan nodded, not trusting himself to speak for a moment. The feeling in his chest, the one he had been pushing aside for so long, was growing. It was a mixture of guilt and hope, of shame and pride. He had spent so many years building his empire, chasing success, but this moment felt bigger than all of that. This was about something real. This was about human connection. This was about giving Anna a chance at a life she deserved. And for the first time in a long time, Logan felt like he was finally doing something that truly mattered. The next few days passed in a blur for Anna and Logan. They settled into a routine of sorts, though it wasn't one that felt comfortable or familiar to either of them. Anna, still unsure of her place in this new life that Logan had promised her, struggled with the idea of accepting help. She was used to surviving on her own, to not relying on anyone. Every time Logan reached out, every time he offered something, she flinched just a little, afraid that it would be taken away. Logan, on the other hand, found himself growing more concerned with each passing day. Despite his wealth, despite his experience in solving problems with money and connections, this was different. This wasn't something that could be fixed with a check or a grand gesture. This was about healing, about trust, and it was a much harder battle to fight. On the 5th day, Logan decided to take a more direct approach. He couldn't wait for Anna to come to him. He needed to show her that this wasn't just a fleeting moment of kindness, it was a promise he intended to keep. He invited her to his home, a place that was as foreign to her as the idea of stability. It was a sprawling mansion, perched on a hill overlooking the city, with floors made of marble and walls lined with expensive art. For a brief moment, Anna froze when they arrived. She stood at the gates of the mansion, staring at the intimidating structure before her. The walls seemed too high, the doors too wide. It was a world so far removed from hers that it almost felt like a dream. "Are you sure?" Anna asked softly, her voice uncertain, her feet rooted to the spot. Logan turned to her, his eyes warm. "I'm sure," he said. "You don't have to be afraid. This is your home now, too." Anna didn't move for a moment. She wanted to believe him. She really did. But the fear of disappointment, of being let down, was strong. Slowly, she took a step forward, then another, until she was standing beside him at the gates. Together, they entered, the heavy doors swinging open before them. As they walked through the halls, Anna couldn't help but feel out of place. Everything seemed so polished, so perfect. She felt like a small fish in a big, unfamiliar pond. Logan sensed her unease. He knew this wasn't going to be easy, but he also knew it was necessary. "I know this is a lot," he said, breaking the silence. "But this is just a step, one step at a time. We'll take it slow." Anna nodded, though she still couldn't shake the feeling that any moment this could all disappear, just as quickly as it had arrived. Logan led her to a room that had been prepared for her, simple, yet warm and comfortable. It wasn't extravagant, but it was a safe space, one that he hoped would begin to change how she saw the world. As they entered, Anna hesitated. She stood in the doorway, eyes scanning the room, before her gaze landed on the bed, neatly made with soft white sheets. For a moment, she stood there, still. The concept of rest was foreign to her. She had never really known what it felt like to sleep without the weight of worry pressing on her chest. "Go ahead," Logan said gently, noticing the hesitation. "This is your space. You can rest here, you can breathe." Anna nodded, but didn't move immediately. The walls, the bed, the room, it all felt too good to be true. She wanted to collapse into the comfort, but her body, so used to tension, couldn't quite allow it. Logan stepped toward her, his expression soft but steady. "I want to show you something," he said, leading her to the window that overlooked the city below. "Do you see that?" he asked, pointing to the lights in the distance, stretching as far as the eye could see. "That's the city. People live there, work there, and they struggle just like you. But they also find hope. They find a way to keep going. And you will too, Anna. You'll find your way, just like they do." Anna stood quietly beside him, her eyes fixed on the view. The city lights flickered like tiny stars, and for the first time, she allowed herself to think that maybe, just maybe, there was something more out there for her. Maybe there was a chance at a life where she didn't have to survive, but where she could truly live. Logan stood beside her for a moment, letting the silence speak for itself. He could see the flicker of something in her eyes, a tiny spark of hope, a tiny crack in the walls she had built. It was small, but it was there, and for now, that was enough. "You don't have to figure everything out all at once," Logan said softly, his voice calm. "But we'll take it one step at a time, and I'll be here with you every step of the way." Anna turned to him, her face still uncertain but with a hint of something new, something that resembled trust. She didn't say anything, but the way she looked at him told him all he needed to know. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe in him, in herself, in the future. And for Logan, that was everything. Days passed, and slowly, Anna began to adjust to the strange new life Logan had offered her. The mansion, though still foreign, became a little less intimidating with each passing day. She spent time in her new room, a quiet space filled with soft light and the comforts she had never known. Logan kept his promise, checking in on her every day, offering her support, but always giving her the space to find her own rhythm. He had learned that patience was going to be the most important thing in their journey together. But no matter how much Logan tried to shield her from the world outside, the challenges still lingered. Anna's trust was fragile. She wasn't ready to fully believe that this life could be real, that it could last. The sense of survival that had been ingrained in her for so long was difficult to shake. One afternoon, Logan came home earlier than expected. He had just wrapped up a meeting and had been looking forward to spending time with Anna. He entered the house, the familiar sound of the grand doors opening echoing through the hallway. As he walked down the corridor, he stopped short. He had expected the house to be quiet, but instead, there was an unfamiliar sound coming from the living room. Anna was there, sitting on the floor, her back to him. But it wasn't just the sight of her that caught Logan's attention. It was the fact that she was talking to someone. He couldn't see who, but the conversation sounded urgent. Logan stepped closer, the sound of his footsteps barely noticeable on the plush carpet. "You need to come back for me." Anna's voice was low, but there was a note of desperation in it that Logan hadn't heard before. "I can't do this alone anymore." There was a long pause, and Logan could hear her taking a deep breath. "I know you're sick, but please, I don't want to be alone anymore." Logan's heart sank as he realized who Anna was talking to. It was her mother, the woman who had been sick, the one who had been unable to care for her. Logan didn't move at first, unsure of what to do. He knew Anna's situation wasn't something that could be solved easily. This wasn't just about offering food, shelter, or money. It was about a child who had been abandoned by the very person who should have been there to protect her. The silence in the room stretched on, broken only by Anna's quiet sobs. Logan's instincts told him to stay hidden, to let Anna have this moment to speak to her mother without interruption. But he also knew he couldn't ignore this. He couldn't just pretend that everything was fine. Logan took a deep breath and walked into the living room. Anna didn't hear him at first, too lost in her conversation, too wrapped up in her own grief. But when she turned around and saw him standing there, her face immediately changed. The warmth in her eyes faded, replaced by a look of guilt. "Anna," Logan said softly, kneeling down in front of her. "You don't have to do this alone anymore. But you can't carry everything by yourself. It's okay to ask for help." Anna wiped her eyes quickly, trying to hide the tears that had fallen. She didn't want him to see how vulnerable she still felt. She didn't want him to think she was weak. "I wasn't asking for your help," she replied quietly, her voice shaking. I just want my mom back." Logan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He sat down next to her, close but not too close, giving her the space she needed. "I know," he said softly. "I know it's hard, and I know you miss her. But you're not alone anymore, Anna. I'm here, and I will be here for as long as you need me." The words hung in the air for a moment before Anna finally spoke again. "What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough to be here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Logan gently placed his hand on her shoulder, offering the reassurance that she needed. "You don't have to be strong all the time," he said, his tone steady. "You just have to be honest. You have to let people in. And right now, that means letting me help you. You've already been through more than anyone should ever have to go through, but you don't have to keep carrying that weight alone." Anna looked up at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty, but there was something else there too, a glimmer of hope, of trust. Slowly, she nodded. It wasn't a big gesture, but it was enough for Logan. For the first time since they had met, she wasn't looking at him with suspicion or fear. She was simply letting him in. "Okay," she whispered. Logan smiled, a small but genuine smile that reached his eyes. "We'll take this one step at a time," he said. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, but we'll figure it out together." Anna stayed quiet for a moment, the weight of her emotions still pressing down on her, but now there was a slight shift. The walls she had built around herself were beginning to crack. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was a start. Logan could see that she was beginning to understand what he had been trying to tell her. The road ahead would be long, but they would face it together. That thought was enough for him, and for the first time in a long time, it seemed like it was enough for Anna too. Days turned into weeks, and Logan could see the changes in Anna, though they were small. She was starting to open up more, trust a little more, but there was still an undercurrent of hesitation in her. The walls she had built up over the years were not coming down easily. Logan understood. It wasn't just about providing for her. It wasn't even about offering a place to stay or food to eat. It was about showing her that people didn't always let you down, that she could finally rest without the constant fear that everything would fall apart at any moment. But one morning, just as Logan was finishing his breakfast, he received a call that would shift everything. The call was from the hospital. The voice on the other end was familiar but still filled with urgency. "Mr. Pierce, we need you to come down here as soon as possible. It's regarding Anna's mother." Logan's heart sank. He had known this day would come, but he hadn't expected it so soon. Without a word, he stood, grabbed his coat, and left the house. The drive to the hospital felt like it took forever. His mind raced with questions, but no answers. Was this it? Was Anna's mother finally at the end of her battle? What would happen to Anna? Logan had promised her that she wasn't alone, but the truth was, he didn't know how to handle this. As he arrived at the hospital, his eyes scanned the waiting room. There were other families, other stories, but none of them felt as personal as this one. He found his way to the doctor's office and was led inside. The doctor's face was kind, but his eyes were filled with the heaviness of the situation. "Mr. Pierce," the doctor began, "Anna's mother has taken a turn for the worse. She is not expected to make it through the day. We need to prepare Anna for what is coming." Logan felt a lump form in his throat. He had known that Anna's mother was in a delicate state, but hearing the words from the doctor's mouth made it all too real. "I'll speak to her," Logan said, his voice steadier than he felt. "Please let me know if there's anything I can do." The doctor nodded and left him alone for a moment. Logan stood there, the weight of the situation crashing down on him. Anna's mother had always been a distant figure in Anna's life, but now she was all Anna had left. He couldn't imagine the pain she must be feeling. The confusion. Logan took a deep breath before heading toward Anna's mother's room. When he entered, Anna was sitting at her mother's side. The small, frail woman lay in the bed, her breathing slow and labored. Anna's face was streaked with tears, but her eyes were still determined. She didn't want to show weakness. Not now, not ever. Logan walked in quietly, not wanting to disturb the fragile moment between them. Anna looked up when she heard him enter, and for the first time in a long time, Logan saw something other than fear in her eyes. It was exhaustion and grief. She had been carrying so much for so long, and now it was all coming to a head. "Anna," Logan said gently, his voice soft. "I'm here." Anna didn't respond at first. She just looked at her mother, the woman who had given her life but had also left her to fend for herself. Logan approached her slowly, kneeling beside her. "It's going to be okay," he said, though he wasn't sure that was true. "You don't have to go through this alone." Anna shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know what to do without her." Logan felt his heart break for her. "I know it's hard, Anna," he said softly, "but you have me. You have people who care about you, and we'll get through this together, I promise you." For a moment, there was silence. Anna's gaze never wavered from her mother's face. The machines beeped in the background, steady but not reassuring. Finally, Anna spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "I never thought this day would come. I never thought I would lose her." Logan placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice firm and calm. "You haven't lost her, Anna. She's always going to be with you. In your heart, in your memories." Anna looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of pain and confusion. "But how do I move on without her?" Logan swallowed hard. He knew the answer, but he didn't know if it would be enough for Anna to believe. "You don't have to move on right away. Take it one step at a time. Just know that you're not alone in this. You have me, and you have your future, and I will be here for you, every step of the way." Anna finally nodded, her eyes still clouded with grief, but a small spark of trust began to shine through. She wasn't sure how she would navigate the days ahead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to live again. Logan stayed with her for the rest of the day, offering support, helping her through the difficult moments. "I know it's hard, Anna," he said softly, "but you have me. You have people who care about you, and we'll get through this together, I promise you." For a moment, there was silence. Anna's gaze never wavered from her mother's face. The machines beeped in the background, steady but not reassuring. Finally, Anna spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "I never thought this day would come. I never thought I would lose her." Logan placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice firm and calm. The weight of the loss was heavy on both of them. Anna wasn't a child anymore, not in the way she had been when they first met. The grief had aged her, forced her to grow up far too fast. and Logan could see it in the way she held herself now, guarded, unsure, and still struggling to accept that her mother was gone. Logan had done what he could to offer comfort, but nothing could fill the hole left by her mother. They spent the next few days quietly together, Anna retreating into herself more and more as she tried to process the loss. Logan, for all his wealth and influence, had no idea how to ease the pain she was feeling. He had never lost someone so close. His life had always been one of privilege, of stability, nothing like what Anna had gone through. But still, he knew that this wasn't about fixing things, about making it go away. This was about being there, letting Anna know she wasn't alone in her grief. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the grand halls of the mansion, Logan found Anna sitting by the window. She was staring out, her eyes distant, her face pale. There was an emptiness in her expression, one that Logan couldn't ignore. He had seen this before, in people who had lost something irreplaceable. It was the look of someone who was struggling to find their way forward, but couldn't quite see how to move. "Anna," Logan said gently, approaching her, though he made sure not to get too close. "How are you holding up?" Anna didn't respond immediately. She just kept staring out the window, her fingers lightly resting on the cold glass. Logan could tell that she wasn't ready to talk, but he needed to say something, needed her to know that he was there, that she could lean on him. "You haven't lost her, Anna. She's always going to be with you. In your heart, in your memories." Anna looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mix of pain and confusion. "But how do I move on without her?" Logan swallowed hard. He knew the answer, but he didn't know if it would be enough for Anna to believe. "You don't have to move on right away. Take it one step at a time. Just know that you're not alone in this. You have me, and you have your future." They spent the next few days quietly together, Anna retreating into herself more and more as she tried to process the loss. Logan, for all his wealth and influence, had no idea how to ease the pain she was feeling. He had never lost someone so close. His life had always been one of privilege, of stability, nothing like what Anna had gone through. But still, he knew that this wasn't about fixing things, about making it go away. "You don't have to forget her," Logan said gently, kneeling down beside her. "She'll always be a part of you. The love you had for her, the memories, that's what will keep her with you. But moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It just means finding a way to live again, to honor her by living the life she would have wanted for you." Anna was silent for a long time, her eyes still locked on his. It was as though she were weighing his words, trying to decide whether she could believe them. Logan didn't press her, just waited, letting the silence hang in the air between them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Anna spoke again. "I don't know if I can," she whispered. "I don't know if I can ever be okay again." Logan placed a hand on her shoulder, offering her the comfort that he knew she needed. "It's okay not to be okay," he said softly. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now. We'll take this one step at a time." Anna nodded slowly, though she still looked uncertain. Logan knew it wouldn't be easy, that the road ahead would be filled with struggles, but he also knew that Anna had the strength to find her way, and he would be there with her, every step of the way. As the evening went on, Logan stayed by her side, offering the quiet support that she needed. He didn't have all the answers, and he didn't have the power to make her pain go away, but he could offer her something more important: his presence, his commitment to help her rebuild her life, and the promise that she would never be alone again. Anna still had a long way to go, but in that moment, as she sat next to him, there was a shift. The walls she had built around herself were starting to crack. She wasn't ready to let go of the past, but for the first time, she was starting to see a future one where she could heal, one step at a time. The following weeks were filled with small but significant changes. Anna began to settle into her new routine, though the echoes of her mother's passing still loomed large. Logan watched her closely, recognizing the signs of someone trying to carry on despite the weight of their grief. She wasn't the same girl who had first arrived at his door, afraid and unsure of herself. She was slowly learning to trust, to accept that she wasn't alone anymore. Still, there were moments when the old walls would go back up, brief moments when the vulnerability she had shown seemed to evaporate, replaced by the guarded, independent girl she had been before. One afternoon, Logan had planned a quiet walk through the garden. The sun was just beginning to dip beneath the horizon, casting a soft glow over the flowers and trees. It was a peaceful moment, one that Logan hoped would help Anna feel a sense of calm, a moment of connection with the world around her. As they walked side by side, Logan glanced over at her. She was looking at the flowers, but her mind seemed far away, lost in thoughts he couldn't reach. "Anna," Logan said, his voice gentle, "do you ever think about what comes next? About what you want for your future?" Anna stopped walking for a moment, her gaze fixed on the flowers in front of her. She didn't say anything at first, and Logan wondered if she had heard him. But then, slowly, she spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "I don't know," she said. "It's hard to think about the future when the past is still there." She turned to face him, her eyes soft but guarded. "I don't even know where to start." Logan stopped walking as well, turning toward her. He could feel the weight of her words, the uncertainty that still clung to her. "It's okay to not know," Logan said, his voice calm but firm. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. But I want you to know that you don't have to do this alone anymore. Whatever comes next, we'll figure it out together." Anna's eyes flickered, a brief spark of emotion crossing her face. For a moment, Logan thought she might say something, but instead, she just nodded. She wasn't ready to voice everything she was feeling, but that was okay. Logan understood. "I don't want to let her go," Anna whispered after a moment, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't want to forget her." Logan stepped closer, offering her a reassuring smile. "You won't forget her, Anna. You'll carry her with you, in everything you do. And that's not a bad thing, it's just part of who you are now." Anna's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they weren't just born of grief. There was something else there, something more hopeful. "But how do I live with this? How do I move on?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Logan placed a hand on her shoulder, offering what comfort he could. "You take it one step at a time," he said softly. "And when you're ready, we'll talk about what comes next. But for now, just know that I'm here, and I always will be." Anna nodded slowly, a quiet acceptance in her expression. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she was starting to understand that she didn't have to face it alone. Logan didn't have all the answers, and he knew that there were things he could never truly fix for her. But he also knew that sometimes, just being there for someone, offering the support they needed, was enough. They didn't have to have everything figured out in one day. As the sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow over the garden, Logan and Anna stood together in silence. For the first time, in a long time, Anna felt a sense of peace settle over her. "It's okay to not know," Logan said, his voice calm but firm. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. But I want you to know that you don't have to do this alone anymore. Whatever comes next, we'll figure it out together." Anna's eyes flickered, a brief spark of emotion crossing her face. For a moment, Logan thought she might say something, but instead, she just nodded. She wasn't ready to voice everything she was feeling, but that was okay. Logan understood. It wasn't a perfect peace, and it wasn't a resolution. But it was a step forward, and that was enough for now. The days following their quiet conversation in the garden were filled with small steps forward. Logan noticed the subtle changes in Anna as she started to adjust to the new life he had promised her. It was never easy. And there were times when the weight of everything, the grief, the uncertainty, seemed to come crashing back down. It was as though the walls she had so carefully built around herself were starting to crumble, piece by piece. Logan stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her. He had promised to help her heal, but he knew that healing was a long, complicated process. It wasn't something that could happen overnight. It would take time, patience, and understanding things that Anna wasn't used to. He slowly walked over to her, his footsteps barely making a sound on the wooden floor of the porch. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, his voice soft. Anna didn't turn to look at him, but she nodded slightly. Logan sat down next to her, careful not to intrude too much on the space she had carved for herself. The air was cool, and the gentle evening breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees. For a while, neither of them said anything. Logan respected the silence, knowing that sometimes it was the only thing that made sense. Eventually, it was Anna who spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I'm ever going to be okay, she said, her words fragile, as though she was afraid they might break apart in the air. Logan turned toward her, his gaze steady. You don't have to be okay right now, Anna, he said gently. You just have to take things one step at a time. I know it's hard, but you don't have to do it alone. You have me, and you have people who care about you, and that's enough for now. Anna was silent for a long time, staring out into the fading light. Logan could see the inner struggle, the way she was trying to make sense of everything that had happened. He could see that she was tired, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. It had been a long journey for her, one that had taken more than a child should ever have to bear. Sometimes it feels like everything is just too much, Anna finally said, her voice thick with emotion. Like I'm never going to get to the place where I feel whole again. Logan nodded, his heart aching for her. It's going to take time, he said softly. There's no rush. You don't have to have everything figured out right now, but I want you to know something: your past doesn't define your future. You've been through a lot, but that doesn't mean you can't move forward. Anna turned her head slightly to look at him, her eyes searching his face, as if looking for some kind of truth in his words. But what if I'm not strong enough? She asked, her voice barely audible. Logan smiled gently, his voice steady and reassuring. You're stronger than you think, Anna. You've already proven that. The fact that you're here, that you're willing to keep going, that's strength. You don't have to carry the weight of the world by yourself. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep moving forward, even when it's hard. For the first time in a long time, Anna let herself relax a little. She leaned back, letting the weight of her shoulders drop slightly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Logan could see that she was beginning to understand. I don't know if I can ever fully let go of the past, Anna said quietly. But maybe I can start to live again, slowly. Logan nodded. That's all you can do, Anna, one step at a time, and when you're ready, we'll take the next step together. They sat in silence for a while longer, watching as the last of the daylight disappeared behind the horizon. It was a peaceful moment, one that Logan hoped would stay with Anna long after the night had fallen. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that with each passing day, she was becoming stronger. She was learning to trust, to open up, to accept that she didn't have to do everything alone. And for Logan, that was all he could ask for. He didn't have the answers, but he had his promise to her to be there every step of the way. And that, he hoped, was enough. The weeks that followed were a slow but steady process of healing. Logan and Anna had settled into a new routine. It wasn't perfect, but it was beginning to feel like something real. Anna had started attending school again, though the experience was still overwhelming for her. It wasn't easy, and she often found herself retreating into the quiet comfort of the mansion after each day, trying to piece together the fragments of her new life. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to feel, or how she was supposed to act. Everything was different now, but Logan was always there, checking in on her, offering support when she needed it, but never pushing too hard. He knew better than anyone that it wasn't about rushing. The wounds Anna carried would take time to heal. One day, after school, Anna came home to find Logan sitting at the kitchen table, a piece of paper in front of him. It was a simple invitation, an invitation to a charity event he was hosting. It wasn't the kind of event Anna would normally attend, but Logan had insisted that she come. I want you to be there, he had said. You've come so far, Anna. You deserve to be part of something bigger, something that could help you see just how far you've come. Anna hadn't been sure at first. She had spent so much of her life avoiding attention, avoiding the spotlight. She wasn't sure if she was ready to face the world outside the safety of the mansion, but there was something in Logan's voice, something in the way he looked at her, that made her think maybe, just maybe, it was time to take the next step. The night of the event arrived. Logan had arranged for a car to take Anna to the venue, a beautiful hall adorned with lights and flowers, where guests in expensive suits and gowns mingled. It was a world Anna had never known. She felt out of place, like a fish out of water, but Logan had promised her she was ready. She had nothing to prove to anyone but herself. As they entered the hall, Logan guided her through the crowd, introducing her to people, offering her a place to stand. to observe. Anna didn't know how to navigate this world, but Logan was by her side, and that was enough. As the evening went on, she began to loosen up. She found herself chatting with a few guests, people who didn't look at her like she was an outsider, but who simply saw her for who she was. There was something liberating about it. For the first time in a long time, Anna didn't feel like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was just a girl at a party, enjoying herself. Later in the evening, as Logan made his way to the stage to give a speech, Anna stood at the back of the room, watching him. He was confident, poised everything she had never felt. But as he spoke, she saw the kindness in his eyes, the genuine care he had for the people in the room. She realized, for the first time, that Logan wasn't just helping her. He was helping everyone around him. The speech was short but impactful, focused on the importance of giving back and making a difference in people's lives. As he finished, the applause filled the room, but Anna wasn't clapping. She was lost in thought, reflecting on the journey she had been on and how far she had come. As the evening drew to a close, Logan found Anna again, a soft smile on his face. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice gentle. Anna looked up at him, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. It wasn't a big smile, but it was enough. "I'm okay," she said, her voice full of quiet pride. "I think I'm starting to believe it. I can do this. I can be part of something bigger." Logan nodded, his eyes soft. "You've already done it, Anna," he said. "You've taken the first step, and you're stronger than you think." They stood together for a moment, side by side, as the guests slowly began to filter out of the hall. Anna realized, in that moment, that her journey was far from over, but for the first time, she felt like she was moving in the right direction. It wasn't just about surviving anymore, it was about living, and she was finally beginning to believe that she had a future worth living for. Months had passed since that charity event, and while Anna was far from the same girl who had first arrived at Logan's home, there were still days when she struggled to find her place in this new life. It wasn't that the mansion had become home. It was more that Anna had started to feel something she hadn't in years. Hope. Logan had kept his promise to help her rebuild, not just by offering shelter or food, but by giving her something much more valuable, the chance to believe in herself again. One afternoon, Logan invited Anna to accompany him on a trip to the city. It was something they hadn't done together before. Logan had always kept his world separate from hers, not wanting to overwhelm her, but today, he wanted her to see the difference she was making. They arrived at a community center that Logan had been involved with for years. The building was modest, tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, but inside, it was filled with life. Children ran around, laughing and playing, and volunteers were busy setting up tables, preparing food for the evening meal. Logan smiled as he greeted several people who worked there. "I wanted you to see this, Anna," Logan said, looking down at her with a gentle smile. "This is part of the work I do. It's where a lot of my time and effort go, helping people who need it." Anna looked around, taking it all in. It was a world far removed from the life she had known, one filled with kindness and generosity, not the cold indifference she had grown up with. As they walked through the center, Logan introduced her to some of the people who had benefited from the services provided, families who had found support when they were struggling, individuals who had rebuilt their lives with help from the center. Anna listened quietly, her eyes widening at the stories she heard. She had never known there were places like this, where people reached out to help, expecting nothing in return. It was all so different from the world she had been raised in. "It's not just about giving money or food," Logan explained as they walked through the building. "It's about community, about showing up for one another. It's about making sure people don't have to go through things alone." Anna looked up at him, her expression thoughtful. She had always thought that people like Logan were untouchable, that the rich were too distant from the struggles of others. But here he was, involved in the work, giving his time and energy to a cause that was so far removed from the life he could have had. It made her realize something. Logan wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He was someone who genuinely cared about making a difference. As the day wore on, Anna found herself feeling a sense of belonging she hadn't felt before. She began to see how the things Logan had done for her weren't just about providing a place to stay or paying for her education. They were about showing her the possibilities beyond survival. about helping her build a future that didn't involve constantly looking over her shoulder. They ended the day by helping serve the evening meal. And for the first time, Anna didn't feel out of place. She worked alongside the volunteers, preparing food, setting up the tables, and speaking with the people who came through. There was laughter in the air, conversations that weren't about pity or survival but about the small joys of daily life. As they packed up to leave, Anna felt a shift within herself. She wasn't sure what her future would look like, but for the first time, she felt like she had the power to shape it. Logan had given her a chance to see that there was more to life than surviving. She could build a life for herself, not just one where she existed, but one where she could thrive. That evening, as they drove back to the mansion, Anna looked over at Logan, a small but genuine smile on her face. "I never knew people like this existed," she said softly. Logan glanced over at her, his eyes filled with quiet pride. "There are more of them than you think," he said gently. "And you're one of them now, Anna." She nodded slowly, her heart a little lighter than it had been before. It wasn't just about finding a place in the world anymore, it was about finding her own voice, her own path. The road ahead would still have its challenges, but Anna now knew she wasn't walking it alone, and that made all the difference. Months had passed since Anna's journey with Logan had begun, and as time moved forward, so did Anna. She had learned so much not just from Logan, but from the life she was beginning to shape for herself. The mansion had become home, but more importantly, Anna had started to feel like she belonged to something bigger than herself. She was no longer just the girl who had once been lost in the streets, looking for scraps of food. She was now someone with a future. Someone who had hope. One evening, as Logan and Anna were sitting together in the living room, the warm glow of the fireplace flickering in the background, Anna turned to Logan. Her face was calm, but there was a quiet determination in her eyes. "Logan," she said, her voice steady, "I think I'm ready to start giving back. I want to help people, just like you helped me." Logan looked at her, his heart swelling with pride. He had always known that Anna had it in her, she just needed to believe it herself. "You're ready, Anna," he said softly. "You've always had it in you. You just had to find the right path." Anna nodded, but her thoughts were already racing ahead. She had spent so much of her life feeling invisible, feeling like she didn't matter. But now, she knew better. She had a purpose, and she was determined to make the most of the second chance she had been given. The next few months were filled with new challenges and triumphs. Anna started volunteering at the community center, working alongside Logan to help those who were struggling just as she once had. She worked with children, helping them with their homework, organizing activities, and offering the kind of support she had once longed for. It wasn't always easy, but Anna knew it was what she was meant to do. She was becoming a leader in her own right, and it felt like the first real step toward the future she had always dreamed of. Logan continued to support her, but he could see that Anna had found her footing. She no longer needed him in the same way. She had grown into someone strong, someone who could stand on her own. It filled Logan with a quiet sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had played a part in helping Anna find her way. One afternoon, as Anna was preparing for a special event at the community center, she paused for a moment to reflect. It had been a long road to get here, and there had been moments of doubt, but she had come so far. She was no longer defined by her past. She had taken the pain and turned it into something beautiful, something that could help others. As she stood in front of a group of children, ready to lead them in an activity, she realized something. She wasn't just helping them, they were helping her, too. They were teaching her the value of patience, of kindness, of giving without expecting anything in return. It was a lesson she would carry with her for the rest of her life. The evening of the event arrived, and Anna stood at the front of the community center, greeting guests, welcoming them with a warm smile. The event was a success. People came together, raised funds, and shared stories of hope. As the night wore on, Anna found herself standing next to Logan once again. He watched her, his pride evident in the way he looked at her. "You've come a long way, Anna," he said softly, his voice filled with admiration. Anna smiled, her heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you, Logan," she replied. "You showed me that there was more to life than just surviving. You gave me the chance to dream." Logan shook his head, a smile tugging at his lips. "You did that yourself, Anna. You always had it in you." As the event came to a close and people began to leave, Anna stood at the door, watching them go. She felt a sense of peace, a sense of belonging she had never known before. It wasn't just the community or the work she was doing. It was the realization that she had found her place in the world, and that she was no longer just surviving. She was living. And for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The road ahead would still have its challenges. There would be hard days, moments of doubt, but Anna was ready for them. She had learned that healing wasn't linear. It wasn't about perfection. It was about progress. And she was making progress every single day. As the last guest left and the lights in the center dimmed, Anna looked at Logan, a sense of gratitude filling her heart. "Thank you," she said quietly. Logan smiled, his eyes soft. "You've made me proud, Anna, and I know your journey is just beginning." She smiled, her heart full of the promise of the future. The future she was finally ready to embrace. Discover an inspiring journey through the power of resilience in this moving black story. As a young girl, Anna finds hope and healing after a traumatic past. From surviving on the streets to finding a home with Logan, a billionaire who offers her more than just shelter, Anna begins her path to self-discovery and empowerment. This black story is about overcoming the odds and the importance of community and support in the healing process. As Anna transitions from survival to thriving, she learns the true meaning of family, friendship, and giving back to those in need. Follow her transformative journey as she works at a community center, helping children and people in need, while Logan stands by her as a mentor and guide. This black story not only tells of Anna's personal growth but also highlights the significance of embracing your past and using it to fuel your future. Through challenges, love, and support, Anna starts to believe in herself and the possibility of a bright future. Learn how one person's kindness and belief in another can create powerful change in this touching black story. Experience the strength, courage, and resilience of a young girl who learns that her story is just beginning and that she has the power to shape her destiny. If you're looking for a deeply emotional and uplifting black story, this journey will inspire you to overcome your own struggles and embrace the possibilities ahead.